Welcome to Sports Time with Chris. I'm your host, Chris, and today I will be previewing the divisional round matchups for the NFL playoffs, and I'll be giving my reaction to the wild card games, which quite frankly weren't all that close. Most of them weren't very good games at all. I mean, the Commanders and Commanders and Buccaneers game was pretty good. And then we saw the Vikings get surprised, which was crazy. But before we get into that, as many of you already know, the team I mostly cover is the San Francisco 49ers. And since last week, not too much has happened, really, for the team. I mean, they've had some offensive coordinator interviews, which I think are just mostly to satisfy the league requirements, because they already said that Clay Kubiak would be the offensive coordinator. So I think they're just kind of they've been giving some college guys a chance to interview. They may be using it as a chance for those guys to get experience interviewing for NFL jobs, which is pretty cool. And I don't know how I feel about that rule that the NFL has it. You have to, even though Clay Kubiak is, they want him to be the offensive coordinator, obviously, they are required to interview a certain amount of candidates and a certain amount of minority candidates. And I get it, but I also don't. For one, I think the Niners, whenever you are going to open up a position, and then it's not like they let an offensive coordinator go. No, it's not like someone got fired and they're looking for a replacement. It's really just a promotion for Clay Kubiak. And in that situation, I don't think you really need to have other interviews. But if this was a situation where they fired an offensive coordinator and they're looking for a replacement, then yeah, they absolutely should have to. I think it's best practice for an organization, not just in sports, but to interview multiple candidates for an open position, not just internally, but externally as well. And you try to get the best of the best. And that's in sports, business, life. It's not just, one time you do that. But that's besides the point. They've also had interviews. I think they offered Robert Saleh defensive coordinator job, and if he doesn't get another head coaching gig, then I could see that working out. And then I've seen the Niners tied to some other defensive coordinators like Dennis Allen. They've also interviewed some of the best special teams coordinator assistants in the league, which I think is a good step. I mean, just because someone's an assistant coordinator for special teams doesn't mean they're going to be able to replicate, the success that special teams unit had. Some of that has to do with roster building, which, falls on John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. So we'll see what they do there. And there really hasn't been anything else regarding the 49ers. There is lots of debate on whether Brock Purdy should get paid or not. And maybe I'll get into that later, as we get closer to the NFL offseason after the Super Bowl. Then maybe I might start talking about that, or if he signs it before then, which I doubt. But yeah, we're not going to get into that too much today because we're here to talk about the playoffs. So let's get right into it. I got 4. I got 4 of the 6 games correct. I had the Bills, the Ravens, the Eagles, and the Commanders. The Texans were the first of the surprise teams, maybe for some. For me, man, the Texans hadn't played up to the level that they played last year. They did have some tough injuries, especially on the offensive side, but they just hadn't been playing, and CJ Stroud hadn't looked, very good at all, at least compared to last year. Before the season, I had CJ Stroud as my MVP prediction, and that obviously did not work out. But the most surprising thing about this game was just how it wasn't very close at all. If the Texans, I was expecting it to be close, even if the Texans won this game. And I think I messed up by believing in Justin Herbert this whole time. The last few years, I've said he is very overrated. I've never seen a guy that's 6'6" have so many passes batted down, and he had a few picks in this game. Now some did go off receivers' hands, but yeah, I shouldn't have put my faith in Justin Herbert. Jim Harbaugh is a heck of a coach, but Texans just looked really, really good, and we'll see how that plays out for this game coming up against the Chiefs. The next game was the Ravens and Steelers game. This one went about what was expected, 28-14 for the Ravens. I had them winning 27-18, so yeah, I was somewhat close, not perfect, but Lamar and Derrick Henry, man, that is just a heck of a combo. And the Steelers lost. They lose 5 in a row to end the season, including this game. It's too bad. I think they might have had a better chance with Justin Fields in that game rather than Russell Wilson, but I guess we won't know. The next game was the Bills and Broncos. Again, I expected the Bills to win this game, and it looked like the Broncos were going to have a shot. They came out and scored within just a couple plays on their first drive, and when that happened, I was like, man, this team's going to have a shot. They're going to put up a fight, and that very quickly ended up not being true at all. Josh Allen, that offense, that defense, they're still looking very strong, and I felt bad for, Bo Nix. I'm a big Bo Nix guy, and it's just too bad. I had Buffalo winning 24-16, so I was expecting it to be a little bit more of a defensive game. But yeah, it's funny because during the game I was tweeting that I thought if Denver somehow pulled out the game, they would have a chance against Kansas City. Yeah, because it's all about matchups, and divisional opponents are different. But we won't ever get to see if that's true or not because the Broncos are out. And then the next game, going over to the NFC side, the Packers and the Eagles. The Eagles again won that game 22-10, and I didn't get to watch this game too much. I was a little busy that day, but the fact that the Eagles only put up 22 points, Saquon is really the key to the Eagles. He is absolutely the Eagles MVP. He is the X factor, and I think Saquon is going to be the difference between this game coming up on Sunday because Jalen Hurts is fine. He's not a weapon like Saquon. AJ Brown disappeared. AJ Brown was reading on the sideline during that game. I did see that. I don't know. I don't know if this Eagles team is serious or not. They might just be expecting Saquon to carry them, and I don't know if that's going to lead to success. But their defense is really solid. So, we'll give them that. They might be just riding Saquon in the defense. And honestly, that's when you have a dominant running back like that and a really, really solid defense, that plays into your favor when it comes to time of possession, controlling the clock, controlling the ball. And it seemed like that's exactly what the Eagles did. Now, again, like I said, I wasn't able to watch the whole game, but yeah. So after that was the Commanders and Buccaneers game. Commanders won 23-20, and man, I feel for Baker Mayfield. He is so fun to watch. He's just so scrappy and he's fighting for every yard and inch that he can get. And they just came up short in that game. And the Commanders defense stepped up in the second half. The offense came out and of course won that game at the very end. They Commanders kicker, what's his name? Zane Gonzalez? He went out there looking like, apparently he has OCD, I believe, but it looked like he was having nervous tics. He was like fixing his hair. His shoe was all wrong. He took it off. He took his shoe and socks off multiple times, and he just looked not confident. And he went out and doinked the field goal to win that game. That was pretty awesome. Honestly, a great way to end the weekend portion of a wild card weekend. The Monday night game was on a Monday, so it's not really a weekend anymore, but a solid way to end that game. And I think that it's the last Sunday night game of the year, if I'm not mistaken, because this weekend's divisional weekend. There's going to be an 11 o'clock game and a 2 o'clock game, 6:30, Ravens and Bills on CBS. I'm assuming that's 6:30 Eastern time, so 4:30 Mountain time. But then after that is the championship games, and those are usually there's a afternoon one and then a late afternoon one, so there's no more Sunday night games. So great way to end the season for Sunday Night Football. And then there was the Vikings and Rams. And first of all, the Arizona Cardinals deserve so much credit. I have a ton of respect for that organization, the owner, who, they went and ordered a bunch of paint. They completely redid the team store to have Los Angeles Rams stuff. And they tried to make it really feel like home for the Rams because the real life situation in Los Angeles is horrible in itself. The sports aspect is not as important, but still this team was, uprooted. They were expecting to have home field advantage and the Cardinals tried their best to give them that. And the Cardinals in 2020, when the 49ers got kicked out of California for COVID, they hosted the 49ers as well. And the Niners played their games there. So Michael Bidwell and that organization deserves a lot of credit. And yeah, the Rams went out and just dominated that game, man. That defense for the Rams, that's a scary concept. But if that Rams defense is humming and they can get, again, this team, I mean, Matthew Stafford he was fine in that game, but really, I think Kyren Williams was really the key. And you'll see where I'm going with this when I get to my predictions for the divisional round. But I was not expecting the Rams to come out and completely dominate the way they did. They had Sam Darnold out there looking like the old Sam Darnold, like he was seeing ghosts. That was the Sam Darnold that I was afraid was going to show up in San Francisco. And he did not play like that all season until the last, against Detroit. He didn't look very good. And then his first, I believe it was his first playoff start, he did not look good. I feel for him. Just not a good look at all. We'll see if he's back next season for the Vikings or not. But the Rams, they're a threat. And the fact that they kind of had to fight and scrap a little bit for their playoff spot, it's kind of looking like a Rams team of the past. I don't think they're going to get quite there this year, but they're going to give a few teams a run for their money. That's for sure. And with that, we're going to get into my predictions for the divisional round. So the first game of the weekend, Texans are going to Kansas City. They're playing the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes has not thrown a pass since Christmas last year, which is, wow, that's going to be almost a month off for Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and some of those guys. And for a team that's been to back-to-back Super Bowls, that's going to be really important. That rest is going to help them get fresh to play this game. And they're 8.5-point favorites, which is crazy, man. The spread for some of these games this weekend is crazy for a divisional weekend. But hey, Vegas knows what they're doing. And I don't think the Chiefs will cover 8.5, but I do think they're going to win this game 27-9. On second thought, they're going to cover 27-17. Up next, the Commanders are going to Detroit to face off the number 1 seed Lions. And in this game, Detroit is favored by 9.5 points. That's crazy to me. Detroit, to me, has been the best team in football all season long. They look like they're the team of destiny despite all the injuries that they've had. And they're going to have, they've had a week off to rest. David Montgomery's coming back. I don't think they cover 9.5. And I think the Commanders are going to give them a run for their money. This Commanders team is really good. And offensively, Jaden Daniels is a stud. So for me, I think it's going to be a little bit of a barn burner with Detroit having control of the game, but the Commanders making it interesting. It's going to be 33-27. That leads to the matchup. Los Angeles Rams at Philadelphia Eagles. Philly is favored by 6 points. And to be quite honest, it's supposed to be snowing in Philadelphia during this game. So I think that's really key. And so this comes down to the running games, which I think both teams have really solid running games, obviously. Kyren versus Saquon. It's going to come down to whatever quarterback is going to find the most success. And it doesn't have to be a lot. It could be the guy that doesn't turn it over. It could be the guy that, just does enough to get first downs if it's a crazy snowy game. And from there, it's about stopping the running game. And I just don't see, I don't know. This is really a tough one. Stafford, to me, is on a much higher level than Jalen Hurts. But Jalen Hurts in a snowy game gives you another weapon in the running game. That, to me, is why Philly is going to win this game. It's going to be a close one. Not super high scoring. It's going to be 17-13 for Philadelphia. Finally, a marquee matchup. A game that could easily be its own Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens travel to Buffalo to take on Josh Allen and the Bills. Buffalo are 1.5-point underdogs in this game. So it's basically a pick 'em, flip a coin. We've seen what Josh Allen can do in the snow. He makes it look effortless. Throwing, running, whatever it is. And we haven't seen Lamar in too many snow games, but we do know he has insane running ability. So to me, it's about whoever controls the ball the most. And that means in an ugly snow game, whoever possesses the ball the most is going to win this game. And while the Ravens have some of the best running weapons in the NFL, Josh Allen and this Buffalo's team are still going to give you a passing threat. And that's why I have Buffalo winning this game 21-20. And my bold prediction for this game, Derrick Henry and Lamar are going to fumble the ball once each, with Lamar fumbling to lose the game. And that is going to do it for today's episode. Let me know what you think of the divisional games this weekend. What are your score predictions? Am I correct? I'm at 66% for the playoffs so far. Picked 4 out of 6 teams correctly. So let me know what you think is going to happen. Are the Rams going to pull pull it off in Philly, that's a game where, man, that would be incredible if that happened. I mean, that would be insane, but I can see that happening. I'm rooting for the Texans during this playoff run. I think I said this last week, but my brother-in-law and his family are big Texans fans, and so I'm rooting alongside them, hoping to see their team get into the Super Bowl. They're the people who host the Super Bowl party every year. And last week I explained that I'm looking for recipes because each year I do one recipe from each of the 2 Super Bowl cities that are playing against each other. So it'd be really, really awesome to be able to do a Houston Texans based recipe. Maybe even 2. I would consider doing 2 just because they're Texans fans. But yeah, I mean, if the Texans pull it off against Kansas City, I think they can beat anyone. And that's not football. It's situational. I think we all know that. And even though Detroit to me has been the best team hands down all season in football, if the right team gets hot at the right time, crazy things can happen. So maybe all the rest for Kansas City is going to cause them to come out slow. And if that's the case and they're forced to throw the ball, this Texans defense is pretty solid. So there is, and each of these games, there's a scenario where the underdog pulls it out, right? There's a path. I'm not saying those paths are likely, but would it be insane if we saw Ravens and Texans, I guess Texans and Bills, technically, because Bills are underdogs, and Rams versus Commanders in the NFC in the championship games? That would be pretty crazy. And as a non-fan for all of these remaining teams, since I'm a 49ers fan, I'm just rooting for the best games, honestly. I would love to see the Texans make it, but I just don't think they're at that caliber quite yet. So yeah, anyway, that's enough of that. Thank you for taking the time to listen today. I appreciate every single one of you. If you haven't yet, please go like the video, subscribe to my channel, leave a comment down below because that really helps me, helps my page grow. And with the recent, who knows, Sunday TikTok might be gone for sure. That's where I've seen the most growth as far as interaction and engagement. That's definitely the app where I get the most success. But with that being said, please support me if you would like to. I really appreciate it. This has been Sports Time with Chris.